Disclaimer: this story is a true account shared to raise awareness about trust, relationships, and the complexities of human emotions. Names and some details have been changed to protect privacy. Viewer discretion is advised. They said it was just wine and laughter, nothing more. Just two friends catching up after a long week, unwinding with a few glasses of wine, sharing stories and jokes like any normal evening. But I saw too much. And that night, everything I believed about love, trust, and loyalty started to crumble right in front of my eyes. It all began on a quiet Friday evening. I wasn't planning on going out, but when my best friend called and invited me to join her at a small, cozy wine bar downtown, I thought, why not? The kind of place where the lighting is soft, the music just loud enough to drown out the world, and the air smells like oak barrels and ripe grapes. A place made for conversations that linger late into the night. She was already there when I arrived. Her smile was bright, but something was different, something I couldn't quite put my finger on at first. She told me she was meeting an old friend, someone she hadn't seen in years. Just a casual catch-up, she said. Nothing to worry about. But as the night unfolded, I started noticing things that didn't quite add up. The way they glanced at each other, the small touches that seemed innocent but somehow spoke volumes, the quiet moments when laughter turned into whispered words. The man sitting across from her was charming, easy to talk to, with a way of making her laugh that I hadn't seen in a long time. At first, I tried to convince myself it was harmless, just friendly warmth, nothing more. But then I caught a look between them that made my heart drop. That look that says, we know something you don't. I remember sitting there, pretending to sip my wine, my mind racing with questions I didn't want to ask. How long had this been going on? Was it really just wine and laughter, or something deeper, something more complicated? And most importantly, what was going to happen next? You see, infidelity isn't just about a moment of weakness or a single bad choice. It's a slow unraveling, a quiet storm that builds beneath the surface, hiding behind smiles and excuses. And sometimes, the people you trust the most can become strangers in your own life, wearing masks you never knew existed. That night was the turning point. The night when I realized that sometimes, the stories we tell ourselves to feel safe aren't the truth. Sometimes, love isn't enough to hold everything together. Sometimes, you see too much, and there's no going back. But I couldn't just walk away. I needed to know what was really going on, to confront the reality behind the laughter. And that's where things took a turn I never expected. The conversation that followed, the choices made in those tense moments, they changed everything. I want to take you through every detail, every emotion, every awkward silence and painful truth, because these stories matter. They remind us how fragile trust is, how complicated human hearts can be, and why sometimes the hardest battles are fought not with others, but within ourselves. So, if you've ever felt the sting of betrayal or wondered what it's like to see someone you love in a different light, this story is for you. Because it's raw, it's real, and it's far from over. Stay with me, because what happened next will shock you. I'm about to reveal the moment when the line between friendship and betrayal blurred, and how that night, the simple excuse of just wine and laughter became the beginning of a truth I wasn't ready to face. Trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. That night, after the laughter died down and the glasses were nearly empty, I found myself unable to look away. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was that uneasy feeling deep in my gut, telling me something was wrong, something I needed to understand. My best friend, the person I had trusted with everything, was sitting there with a man I barely knew, but who somehow seemed to hold a secret between them. To understand why this felt so heavy, you need to know a bit about us, about our history. We had been inseparable since college. Through every heartbreak, every success, and every late-night conversation, we promised we'd be honest with each other. No secrets. No hiding. But now, sitting across from her, I wondered how much of that had been real. Or if somehow I had just been blind. She had been going through a tough time lately. Their marriage wasn't perfect, far from it. There were moments of doubt and frustration that she rarely talked about. I thought we were each other's safe place, the people who could shoulder the weight when life got too heavy. But that night, as she smiled at him, I realized maybe there was a part of her that felt safer somewhere else, even if just for a little while. The man she was with, his name was Mark. I had heard about him before, an old college acquaintance she ran into recently. Nothing suspicious, she said. Just a friend catching up after years apart. But the way they interacted told a different story. There was a familiarity, a closeness that went beyond casual friendship. When she laughed at his jokes, her eyes sparkled in a way I hadn't seen in months. And when he touched her hand briefly, the moment lasted just a heartbeat longer than it should have. I tried to shake off the feeling, telling myself I was imagining things. Maybe I was just being protective or jealous. But then came the whispers, those quiet exchanges that weren't meant to be overheard. Words like, missed you, can't wait to see you again, and don't tell anyone slipped through the cracks. My heart pounded as I realized this wasn't just wine and laughter. There was something else lurking beneath the surface. I remember leaving that night with a knot in my stomach. I wanted to ask her, to confront her gently, but I was scared of what I might hear. Scared that the woman I thought I knew was slipping away, becoming someone I couldn't recognize. And most of all, scared that the truth would break us both. Over the next few days, I kept replaying everything in my mind. The way Mark looked at her, the secret smiles, the tension I couldn't ignore. I started noticing small changes in her behavior, quick glances at her phone, sudden mood swings, and moments when she seemed distant even when we were together. It was like there were two versions of her, the friend I loved and the person hiding something just beneath the surface. I tried talking to her, dropping little hints, hoping she'd open up. But she brushed it off with excuses, stress from work, needing some time to herself. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the more I tried to trust, the more the pieces didn't fit. You know that feeling when you want to believe the best, but your gut screams otherwise? That's where I was. Torn between loyalty and suspicion, love and doubt. It's a dangerous place to be because every word, every gesture starts to feel like a puzzle you're desperate to solve, but the pieces keep slipping through your fingers. Mark kept appearing in her stories, more often than before. Casual mentions at first, then longer talks, coffee dates, messages exchanged late at night. And with each mention, the distance between us grew. I wasn't sure if she was hiding the truth or protecting me from something I wasn't ready to face. One evening, I found myself standing outside her apartment, hesitating to knock. I wanted answers, but I didn't want to push her away. When she finally opened the door, her eyes told me she knew why I was there. There was a heaviness in the air, the kind that comes before everything changes. She invited me in, but instead of the usual warmth, there was silence, thick, uncomfortable silence. We sat there, the unspoken words hanging between us like a storm about to break. I wanted to ask her everything, the late nights, the secret texts, the man who seemed to have taken up space in her heart. But fear held my tongue. What if the truth was worse than I imagined? What if it meant losing her forever? That night was a turning point. I realized that sometimes the people we love have layers we can't see, feelings they can't explain, and choices they wrestle with alone. And sometimes the line between right and wrong, love and betrayal, becomes blurred in ways that leave you breathless, unsure of what comes next. So here I am, sharing this story with you, not because I have all the answers, but because this is real. Because sometimes the hardest truths come wrapped in laughter and wine, and sometimes seeing too much is just the beginning of a journey you never wanted to take. What happens next? Well, that's the part I'm still trying to figure out. But one thing's for sure, the story isn't over and neither are the questions. Stay with me as I uncover more and maybe, just maybe, find a way through the shadows. After that evening, things didn't get easier. If anything, the silence between us grew heavier, filled with all the questions neither of us dared to voice. I kept replaying every moment I had shared with her over the years, trying to pinpoint when the cracks first appeared. Was it always there, just hidden beneath the surface? Or did something happen, something I wasn't a part of, that pulled her away from me and into someone else's orbit? I started noticing the little things that once seemed harmless, but now felt like signs. Her phone screen lighting up late at night, her sudden need for privacy, even the way she'd glance at her reflection, like searching for someone she used to be. It was like watching someone slowly drift away, and no matter how hard I tried to hold on, the distance only grew. But the most painful part wasn't just the possibility of betrayal. It was the way it made me question everything, our friendship, her marriage, and even myself. Was I not enough? Had I missed the warning signs? Or was this something she couldn't control, no matter how much she wanted to? Meanwhile, Mark's presence became impossible to ignore. He wasn't just an old friend anymore. He was a constant shadow in our story. I learned from mutual acquaintances that they'd met several times outside of that night, sometimes in places that seemed too intimate for just friends. I tried to tell myself it was innocent, that maybe she was just seeking comfort in a difficult time. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. The tension wasn't only between her and me. I could feel it spreading like ripples in a pond, touching others around us, changing the way people looked at her, at us. Friends began asking questions, some subtly, others not so much. Whispers of doubt and gossip started circulating, and I hated how quickly things spiraled when trust begins to fade. At the same time, her marriage was fraying in ways I never saw coming. She rarely talked about it, but the few times she did, it was with a sadness that felt too heavy for words. I wondered if Mark was filling a void she couldn't share with her partner, or if he was something more, an escape, a risk, a secret kept under lock and key. I found myself caught between wanting to protect her and needing to uncover the truth. There were moments when she seemed distant, almost like she was wrestling with her own guilt and confusion. I wanted to be there for her, but it was hard when the person I loved felt like a stranger. Sometimes, late at night, I would stare at my phone, debating whether to send a message or just wait. Would asking too many questions push her further away? Or would silence only make the distance unbearable? It was a constant battle, and every day felt like walking on thin ice. I also couldn't ignore how this situation affected me personally. The pain of suspicion, the fear of losing a friend, and the frustration of being shut out, it all weighed heavily. I found myself withdrawing, questioning not just her, but my own judgment. Was I overthinking things, or was there really something I was too afraid to admit? And then there was the guilt. Guilt for feeling betrayed before I had any real proof. Guilt for wanting to hold her accountable, but not wanting to hurt her. It's a confusing place to be, stuck between love and suspicion, loyalty and truth. As the days passed, I began to notice that the story wasn't just about two people anymore. It was about the fragile nature of trust, the secrets we keep to protect ourselves, and the painful realization that sometimes the people closest to us are the ones who hurt us the most. But what made this even more complicated was that I wasn't just an outsider looking in, I was deeply tangled in the middle. And the more I tried to understand her choices, the more I realized that the answers might not be as clear-cut as I wanted them to be. So here I am, still waiting, still watching, still hoping that the laughter and wine really were just what they seemed. But my heart tells me otherwise. And that fear of losing her, of losing everything we had, keeps me on edge, wondering how far this story will go before it breaks us both. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of everything left unsaid grew heavier with each passing moment. I could feel it in every glance, every half-smile that didn't reach her eyes. The more I tried to act normal, the more I realized how much was hanging by a thread. There was a tension between us that couldn't be ignored, like a storm gathering right before it breaks. One evening, I caught her staring out the window, lost in thought, the soft glow of streetlights casting shadows across her face. She looked vulnerable, but there was also a guardedness, a barrier she wasn't ready to tear down. I wanted to reach out, to ask the questions burning inside me, but the fear of what I might uncover held me back. What if the truth shattered everything? Then there was Mark. He was still there, like a ghost lurking in the background of every conversation. I started noticing the little things again, a message left unanswered on her phone, a sudden change in plans, the way she'd tense up when his name came up. It was as if we were all playing a dangerous game, and no one was sure who would lose. The nights became the hardest. When the world was quiet, my mind raced with what-ifs. What if she was already too far gone? What if I had missed the chance to save what mattered most? The silence between us felt like an invisible wall, thick and unbreakable. One night, everything came to a head. We were sitting together, but it felt like we were miles apart. The air was charged, every word weighted with meaning. I could see the battle raging behind her eyes, the guilt, the fear, the longing. And then, without warning, she said something that stopped me cold. A single sentence that held so much more than words could say. At that moment, I knew the story was about to change forever. The truth was close, closer than I ever expected, and whatever came next would change us both in ways I wasn't ready for. The question was, were we ready to face it? Her words hung in the air, heavy and charged with meaning, but what came next completely caught me off guard. Just as I was preparing myself for the truth I thought I was ready to hear, she hesitated and then confessed something I never saw coming. It wasn't just about her and Mark. There was another layer to the story, one that made everything more complicated and painful. She revealed that Mark wasn't the only person involved in this tangled web. There was someone else, someone from her past who had resurfaced unexpectedly. A secret she had buried deep, hoping it would never come to light. Suddenly, the narrative shifted. The simple idea of just wine and laughter was unraveling into something far more complex, filled with hidden emotions and choices that weren't as clear-cut as I had imagined. This new revelation sent my mind into overdrive. Who was this other person? How long had this been going on? And what did it mean for our friendship, for her marriage, for everything we thought we knew? The stakes had just skyrocketed, and I realized that I was no longer just trying to uncover one secret. I was caught in the middle of a storm with more twists than I could have ever anticipated. The tension between us became almost unbearable. Every conversation was charged with unspoken questions, every glance weighed down by secrets that threatened to explode. I wanted to reach out, to help her carry the burden, but I also feared that digging deeper might break something beyond repair. As the days passed, the lines between truth and deception blurred even more. I started to wonder if she was being honest with herself, or if she was as trapped in the story as I was. And with every new detail that surfaced, the weight of betrayal and confusion grew heavier. I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just a story about infidelity anymore. It was about trust, forgiveness, and the painful choices that come when everything you believed starts to fall apart. And the climax, the moment where everything would either come crashing down or somehow find a way to survive, was closer than ever. The moment of truth finally arrived sooner than I expected. One quiet afternoon, we sat across from each other, the weight of everything pressing down so heavily it felt suffocating. She looked me in the eyes and told me everything, the late-night messages, the stolen moments with Mark, and the shadow of the other person from her past who had reappeared at a vulnerable time. She confessed that it wasn't about love or excitement anymore. It was about feeling lost and searching for a way back to herself. Hearing her vulnerability broke something open between us. The anger and betrayal mixed with empathy and sorrow. We talked for hours, confronting the tangled emotions, the fractures in her marriage, and the mistakes that led us here. It wasn't easy, but for the first time, there was honesty, a fragile bridge toward healing. I realized then that this story wasn't just about infidelity. It was about human frailty, the need for connection, and the complicated paths people take when they feel unseen. We didn't have all the answers, and the future was uncertain, but in that moment, there was something real, a chance to rebuild or at least try. But just when I thought we had reached the deepest part of this story, she paused, her voice barely a whisper. There was one more secret, one she had kept from everyone, including me. A secret that would change everything I thought I knew. The unexpected twist hit me like a thunderclap, leaving me breathless and questioning what trust really meant. Sometimes, the hardest truths come last, and they change everything. That final secret she shared changed everything. It wasn't about another affair or a hidden betrayal, it was about her struggle with herself. She revealed that, amid the confusion and mistakes, she had been battling with feelings of loneliness and insecurity long before Mark or anyone else entered the picture. The other person wasn't just someone from her past, it was a symbol of the parts of herself she had lost along the way. That moment of honesty brought a new understanding between us. It wasn't just about infidelity or broken promises, it was about the human need to be seen, heard, and loved, not just by others, but by ourselves. The wine and laughter had been a mask, a temporary escape from pain she hadn't fully faced until now. We didn't have a perfect ending or clear answers. Her marriage remained fragile, and our friendship had changed forever. But there was something important we found, a beginning of healing, built on truth and a willingness to confront difficult emotions. It was a reminder that trust isn't just given, it's earned, rebuilt piece by piece. Looking back, this story taught me that sometimes, what we see on the surface, just wine and laughter, can hide so much more beneath. It showed me the power of empathy, the complexity of human relationships, and the courage it takes to face the truth, no matter how painful. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this story, it's that trust and love aren't always simple, but they're worth fighting for. And sometimes, seeing too much means finally starting to understand. 3.